Hello, thank you. Welcome to my live stream podcast, Be the Boss of Your Money, because I want you to be the boss of your money, not your money to become the boss of you. We're going to skip the usual market rundown today because it's a special day. I have a very special guest. His name is Larry Haber. He is a real estate investor. He's an expert in the field. He creates a ton of educational content. He runs a podcast. He probably creates more content than me, if you can believe that. He's also an attorney, a partner in a well-known real estate firm, all around great guy, and somebody who I find very friendly and very easy to talk with. And I think everybody who knows him feels the same way. So the topic of the day, commercial real estate. Will commercial real estate survive COVID? Office buildings have emptied out. Office parking lots in the suburbs are half empty. New York City real estate is becoming, from everything I see, a major problem. So let's just take a quick look at this. We're going to do a quick share screen. Just want to show you some of the headlines that are going around. New York City is on the edge of a precipice as coronavirus cases grow, former CDC director says. Manhattan's office buildings are empty, but for how long? We have more. Let's see if they come up. BlackRock CEO wants a future with just 50% of workers in offices. In Cranes, most shoppers say they won't set foot in a mall this year. And there are more stories. So let's just quit the share screen. Now, obviously, I'm cherry picking because I want to make a point here. But what we need to do is find out how bad things really are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll a very quick intro, stick around, and then I'm bringing Larry Haber right into the picture. We're going to ask him lots of questions. And if you have a question, I'd like to welcome you to the live stream. Go ahead and ask in the comments. If you're watching this in the replay, welcome to you as well. And certainly ask your questions in the comments as if you were watching this in the live stream. So here we go. Welcome, my man. It is so great to see you, Larry.
Right back at you, my friend.
It's so nice to see you, and I really appreciate you taking the time to join me. I think I've known you now probably for close to 20 years already, if you can believe that. And you've always been somebody who's very approachable, and you always have your opinions on real estate. And I also think because you are a natural educator, that you're someone who's great to speak with. So if you could just real quick, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, and we are going to get into some questions because I want to talk to you about real estate, commercial real estate.
Let's see. I'm a reformed yet long recovered developer, an attorney, non-practicing CPA, father of 4 kids who are all wonderful. I'm an educator. We have an online commercial education training platform as it relates to leases called Leasing Reality. We help people master their leasing domain as we conduct leasing interventions. And when I want to be a little bit boring and pay the bills, I run the commercial real estate practice for a firm that has offices in LA, Manhattan, out in beautiful Melville, Long Island as well.
Melville, Long Island. You know, that place, Melville, is very familiar for some reason. Oh, wait a minute. I'm in Melville as we speak.
Yeah, there we go.
So, thank you very much. So the first question is this. I'm reading just read an article about Manhattan office space, that it's still 90% empty, in particular Midtown. What's going on with that? How bad are things? Or how bad are things in my mind, but not in reality?
Well, listen, just as life is a marathon and not a sprint, so is going to be how we're going to be dealing with what's going on in the world. Plain and simple, the marathon that we all going to be running, and specifically real estate, and more so if you're using Manhattan as the basis, it's going to be a marathon run on our knees, possibly backwards, crawling backwards. It's a long haul. Real estate is not dead. Johnny Winter was an old guy. Was a rock and roller, and he had a song called "Still Alive and Well." Is New York totally well? No, but you know what? It's still alive. And the bottom line is it's the greatest city in the world. It's going to come back. It's just going to be a long while. People are, very hesitant to going back. And, the work from home, we can spend 10 hours talking about the pros and cons of work from home. I think a lot of people, you need to be in an office, because collaboration suffers. I have 3 young people working for me who are interns in law school, and they're not getting what they would get if they were sitting in my office being with me. And collaboration is so key, But and right now, certain industries can get away with not being in the office. Tech, being predominant among those. My office in New York City is, social distancing aside, and we have that. I'm not going into my city office. Okay. Why? Because I can get a lot of it accomplished home. I don't have to be on the 354 train to Manhattan like I used to be pre-COVID. And because we have a major residential practice, my partners need my offices. So our space is filled. We actually need more office. So our space is 80 to 90% filled most of the time, unlike the 10 to 15% right now in Manhattan. So, it's a tale of not 2 cities, of many cities.
Well, it sounds like there's some diversification because you're involved with commercial, but also residential, which is really hot as a pistol right now.
Well, it's hot from the standpoint of banking, refinances. The rates are low. They're going to be low for a long time. But, from the standpoint of the market as far as selling, the high-end market is not good at all in Manhattan. Listen, the good news about it is that, being out in the burbs, Long Island, Westchester, prices are hot. Everything is going up. And there's a dearth.
Is that in terms of commercial office space?
No, we're talking about residential.
Okay.
But
Sure.
but residential as a whole, the city, it's like the concessions are just crazy as to what they're getting in apartments. Apartments very, are not what they weren't. People who own multifamily are struggling. Listen, there's very few asset classes that are doing well right now. And I think the obvious one is industrial is just kicking butt. I think comparing quarter to quarter from last year to this year, I think leasing is up 71%. I think I read that the other day. Whereas comparing office year to year, third quarter to third quarter, it's down 50%. And subleasing, right now I think of the availability of subleasing, 25% of the available space in Manhattan is sublease space, and that's only going up. And as a general statement, that's going to be at a big discount. It's all over the place. I think one of the things that when we were doing our thing back and forth on LinkedIn this morning, I talked about an Elvis Costello song called "Opportunity." Okay,
Yes,
and listen, the stress.
I love how you always work in these analogies from these. So you just have like this. You have like a what do you call it? A jukebox in your head, I think.
Yeah, the 70s were good to me, but the stress breeds opportunity, and the line in the song is opportunity, opportunity. This is your big opportunity. And back in the Great Recession, the people who did unbelievable, and there was a redistribution of wealth, were the ones who were patient, who had what's called dry powder, a lot of money, and they pounced. And the deals they got in 2010, 11, and 12 are what made them very well to do. On the flip side, there were people, and I was among them. New York, our portfolio was great when I was on the ownership side. We had great properties. I could say that without sounding cocky because Newark, New Jersey is a 4-letter word to me. We got killed there. And I got on in 2009 when I first started doing the videos, which morphed into Lease and Reality. And I did a 5-parter on lease restructuring. And I was an owner who went rogue, so to speak. And I was perceived as giving away the trade secrets to tenants. But, I got there on my first video of the 5-part series. I said, listen, the bottom line is stop dwelling on what no longer is and what will no longer be again. Get over it and deal. Price capitulation is a good thing. And, get off of the corner of Fetch Avenue and Wine Street. The bottom line is
Fetch Avenue and Wine Street.
Yeah, you got to get over it and deal. And that was in the first video. And people were like, you don't talk like that. It was crazy because we were doing videos back then. But the bottom line is, listen, New York.
You were doing videos when nobody in real estate was doing videos.
Yeah, but I had nothing to do. So, I was deciding what I wanted to be when I grew up at when I was 49, 50 years old. And, but you're sitting there, listen, New York came back when New York was on the verge of bankruptcy. And I'm not telling anything that people don't know, I don't think, at least. Back in the early 70s, Abe Beam, who was the then mayor, listen, real estate plays such a part in driving the economy. Okay. It's incredible how much they contribute. I'm not going to start quoting stats because I'll get too boring on you. But Abe Beam reached out to Lou Rudin of the Rudin family and said, Lou, you're the man. Unless we get the owners to prepay real estate taxes, the city is going down. We're going to go bankrupt. And Lou Rudin galvanized a whole bunch of owners, and it's a legendary story. And the bottom line is, real estate helped New York survive. Okay. And I
think it's fair to say that everything revolves around real estate. Getting back to your point from work from home, I think a lot of industries like mine as well could work from home, but I think it eventually catches up to you. You can only do it for so long before things start to go missing. Like you said, when you have new people you train, these people are trained because they sit in front of you and they listen to you all day. They can't do that today. You can only learn so much.
For better or worse, but hearing my negotiating style, them sitting in front of me, hearing the way people interact, you don't get that on, when what we're doing right now, and you really can't have them necessarily on the call. But that's not the point, when you're sitting here and you're doing the Zoom and the like. But, at the bottom line is it gets stale. Listen, we were all shell shocked, March, April, with what went on. And now the weather is still nice, but the reality that's going to be changing soon. So it's important that we do get back to the office. I just think it's just going to be a little bit of a while. And, if you remember growing up, there was this movie called The Marathon Man with Dustin Hoffman and Laurence Olivier. And Laurence Olivier, let's just say he wanted to be a dentist in his spare time, and he was doing something. He was trying to perform surgery on Dustin Hoffman. He was being, he was sadistic. And his line in the movie was, "Is it safe?" As he was extracting teeth because he wanted to get information out of Dustin Hoffman. Is it safe? Right now, there's a lot of trepidation about that, and that's the sad part.
Let's just pivot to that. Because people actually watching, I could see there are people watching. By the way, everyone, you're watching this. If you have any questions, words of encouragement, points to make, hit us up in the comments. We would love to see those. Okay, so don't be bashful,
interact, my friends.
Interact. That's the best part. So it's going to be a marathon. We're going to be crawling through it. We'll be on our knees, going backwards at sometimes. But there are people who are watching this who are nervous. Not everybody's going to be able to pivot. And a lot of people have a lot to lose. It's like a regime change, and a regime change means assets change hands. So if assets change hands, someone is losing something, and somebody's gaining something. It's not a win-win. It's like a zero-sum gain.
Yeah, back in 2009, I referred to myself as a newly appointed member of the middle class.
Okay, that's a good one.
Redistribution of wealth,
Wait, we have a comment out here. Let's see if it's a question, what and whatnot. Okay. Hey, Mitch, what about commercial real estate on Long Island from Eileen? Thank you very much. Eileen's coming to us from Facebook. So, look, real estate is local, right? It is real estate. I guess we can't say real estate. Is commercial space threatened to the extent that it is on Manhattan? In Manhattan,
no,
or is it?
I think, listen, to be a landlord on Long Island, listen, there's a lot of areas that have been flat for a long time, and you're also dealing with the fact that Nassau County, the real estate taxes are much higher than once you cross into the Suffolk County border. But the reality is, a lot of what companies are doing now, because they need people to go into the office, they're getting, we'll call them satellite offices, on one end, where it's like, if I have a cluster of a large amount of my staff that lives in Nassau County who doesn't necessarily want to get on the railroad, I might go and get a few thousand square feet or maybe more than that on Long Island. So that's going to help the Long Island market. Okay, I think in a very big way. And a lot of companies are doing that. There are companies where it's like, okay, they in Brooklyn, Two Trees Development has a great office building that just opened up. It's a combo office building, residential building in Domino Park. And they have a lot of full floors that are 5, 6, 7,000 square feet. They're going to be attracting companies from Manhattan. So just as we're going to go to Brooklyn on the waterfront. So just as that's happening, there's a lot of companies. I know of a number of law firms. If you speak to a lot of brokers, who work for some of the big firms out here, they have a lot of law firms and firms of that nature who are the partners are out on Long Island. They're opening up shops in Long Island and they're closing down New York City offices.
Well, that sounds like they're also.
I think it's going to help commercial real estate on Long Island.
Okay. It sounds like they're definitely giving up the commute and the German commute and the time it takes. And I used to work downtown Manhattan and Midtown Manhattan, and I'll certainly never do it again because I don't want to give up that 3 or 4 hours a day every day of my life. And I'll never do it again.
To do that, it's wonderful, but not everybody is. And, listen, I've been doing this for so long, you sit there and it's like, okay, it may be, there's certain things, okay, there's ways of slowing down. I'll never slow down, but I've found myself 3 hours a day. Whereas today I had an hour straight of calls that I didn't have to be in front of the computer. I walked around my neighborhood during the calls. I walked 3.5 miles, got exercise.
It's great. You put on your earbuds.
Yeah.
You walk around. The weather outside today in particular is beautiful. Yeah. And it's terrific. Cup of coffee and your phone and you're good to go. We've got a question out here from Jerry coming to us from Facebook. Where do you see larger retail space, 10,000, 20,000 square feet in 10 years in light of Amazon and online shipping? I think that's been a trend for a long time now that Amazon is encroaching and killing retail space, but maybe I guess does the pandemic accelerate that?
It's all over the place because e-commerce obviously is king and queen, but you know what? And remember something, pre-COVID, one of the questions I used to ask on my podcast was, so are you a believer, that, using a Bruce Springsteen song, that there's a darkness on the edge of town, that retail Armageddon is here, okay? Or are you a believer that, that no, that's not the case, and the sunny days are going to be here for retail? This is obviously going to impact it. I see more and more. Listen, a lot of retail space is going to be redistributed and repurposed. You're going to see a lot of restaurants, unfortunately, which are going to close. We need government intervention there, but that's another thing we should talk about. Not politics. We don't talk politics, but we'll talk about where the government.
You truly are a fellow podcaster. Thank you.
Yeah. But the short is, I think, listen, retail, is going to be different, is what it comes down to. There's going to be where, listen, the curbside pickup has become popular. Right now we're in this stage where, it's a hassle and there's a safety issue as to whether you can go on and try on clothes and how you go about doing that. What's the dressing room going to be like? It's so much different. There's a lot of people out there, and it's crazy. I don't think these companies have their act together as far as shipping is concerned. Whereas, my wife might order 5 things on Amazon that all can be prepackaged together or from Target, and they sometimes send 5 separate boxes. Like, why not put it in? And you're now buying, 5 things, and you're returning 4 of them.
Well, let me ask you.
So I think retail is going to be very mixed. It's going to be different. Listen, right now, I guess the best way to answer the question is that there's going to be change. There's all these lines out there, adapt or die. And that's what the retailers are going to do. There's some very smart people out there.
So is it too early, if you have money burning a hole in your pocket, is it too early to buy retail space on Long Island? And I think that goes for any suburb. Is it too soon?
Well, you know what? Listen, does the deal pencil out? What's the NOI and what type of retail? Listen, just from a standpoint of those who are buying triple net lease properties, where CVS and Walgreens were among the darlings. Right now, CVS and Walgreens aren't doing so wonderful. They're hoping that they're going to end up doing a lot more business because they're going to be a place where you're going to go and get the vaccines. They're doing the flu shots now, so it's like, is retail, is it too early? You know what? Quite possibly. But the bottom line is, if you're getting it at a price that you just can't afford not to buy it because the underwriting is so low and you have patient money and you're not
Right.
buying it
Well,
with transitional money.
real estate seems to change hands. There's two times it seems when real estate changes hands: at a market top and a market bottom. And it seems that the people who changed hands, who bought at the market top, they have a lot to lose. And I think a lot of people are worried. If you own a few of these beautiful skyscrapers, these office towers in a midtown, anywhere city, San Fran, Chicago, New York, what does this mean for them? When I see BlackRock, who, they have almost $8 trillion in management, it's a massive financial firm complex, and they want to reduce their office space by, their office footprint. Could this cause a banking crisis if enough landlords decide they can't hold the property?
It's going to cause crisis in all levels. Construction is going to go down. There's going to be shorter term leases. Right now, do you want to commit to a 10 or 15-year lease when you don't know what market is? Okay. And if there's going to be short term leases, it's going to change the brokerage industry. Why? Because there's going to be shorter term leases. They're going to be getting less on commissions. For starters, they're going to have to stay on top of their clients more so that there's some other brokerage firm isn't going to poach their client. There's going to be less construction. That's going to hurt the construction industry. As far as the build out of the spaces, that's going to change, obviously, because if we're not doing a 10 or 15-year deal, I'm not giving you a tenant improvement allowance of $50 to $150 a square foot. It's going to change dramatically. Listen, right now, and I don't know the exact numbers, I haven't looked in a month, but I know SL Green's stock, who's the biggest landlord, if I'm not mistaken, in Manhattan, was down 50%. If you are a believer in New York, there are some who would say, hey, I can't lose buying it at that number. There are others saying, hey, it's still going down. The opinions are all over the place, and when you say, is it too early to jump in? I'm always from the school, if you can't afford to lose, then you can't afford to win.
I'm from that school as well.
Yeah.
Different business, but I think it all works. It all has something to do with finance and interest rates. A friend of mine and a friend of yours, our friend Adam Rockland, if you're out there, say hello. He taught me through a LinkedIn post that a lot of landlords don't like to give short-term leases because then they can't show it on the books as occupied. Something to that extent. I hope I didn't butcher that lesson.
Well, I guess a part of the point, it has many points to it, is that, remember, the loans on these buildings are generally 5 to 10 years. Okay. And the longer the term, remember, stable and secure and stable cash flow is oxygen to a landlord. Okay. From an underwriting standpoint, whether you're an owner and you're a keeper of the property, or you're going to be selling it, unless you have dramatically undervalued leases below market value and with short term length left on them, where you're going to be able to theoretically raise the rents, having these spaces occupied for a long term is a good thing. Like right now, if I'm doing a 3-year lease, how much free rent am I going to give? I'm going to give little or nothing. How much TI am I going to give? Little or nothing. So the point is that landlords don't want short term leases, but at the same time, there are a lot of landlords, especially in retail, when percentage rent as a basis for paying rent, okay, is becoming semi-prevalent in certain industries in the short term. That's not sustainable. How do you underwrite a building? How do you underwrite the value of the building? When you see the rent is $60 a square foot, the rent's $60 a square foot, and it's coming in for for 10 years, compounded every year at 3%. Okay, as a bump, to the rent. When you're sitting there and it's percentage rent, you can't do that. When it's short term, you can't evaluate the building, and that's part of what Adam was getting at. Okay,
Okay.
it's
Well,
difficult.
he had a few questions I thought were interesting. He had commented, and we both saw those. With tenants looking for short-term flexible deals and thus limiting brokerage commissions, can the average real estate broker survive, or is it just going to be I hate to say this wrong. Is it going to be the guys and the men and women in the industry who are 50 plus who already have the big clients? Are they the only ones who will survive?
It's it's going to be difficult. Listen, I look at this time being a time where you cultivate relationships, you reinforce your existing relationships. I'm a very big believer in the adage that knowledge is power. Red Hot Chili Peppers has a song called "The Power of Equality." That's what knowledge is. You get your knowledge now. The way you in a service business, the way you differentiate yourself from others, other than your charm, your personality, and your skill set, because theoretically a lot of people have that, is how do you add value? Okay, and so I think you're going to see a lot of younger people leave the industry who don't have the patience. Listen, if you have the ability when you get out of college to live with mom and dad, and you don't mind it until you're 25 or 30 years old, okay, then you can afford to make very little. Okay, the ones who do well in commercial brokerage are the ones who have patience, who have staying power, and if you survive
Oh,
those first few years, then they're going to do okay. But
I
I think,
have a lot of friends who are in that, let's say 35 to 55 range who, you know, I don't know if they have the staying power. How many people can go
yeah,
two
it's
or
a
three
different
years?
story.
You've got a family, you've got a house, you've got cars. You know how it is. Your lifestyle becomes a little higher, and your income disappears. It's you run out of that 6 month savings in the bank if people have it. You can look. We're already well over 6 months into the pandemic, so you're talking about a lot of people who've potentially already run through that.
Oh, that became so clear in the early days of the pandemic. How many companies
Yeah.
did not have crazy cash flow on hand? Who didn't have reserves, and it became very difficult. And that was part of the whole shell shock. The first few months of this. But I think it's going to be difficult. But you know what? Listen, history has shown us this is unlike any other. So we're very clear. Okay, but history has shown us we've always rebounded. Okay, and it was the ones who worked hard and used their time well during these downtimes to make new relationships, cultivate the relationships, build up their knowledge base, who excel. But it's going to be difficult, is what it comes down to. Like right now, you're sitting here, people who are in the restaurant industry. I think half the people in New York have lost their jobs in the restaurant industry. The stats are, one third to one half of these restaurants are going to close right now. Like what are a lot of those people who have a great skill set? Listen, I think if every person had to be a waiter or a waitress for 1 week, okay, when they're in their late teens or early 20s, the world would be a better place. We might not have world peace, but it would be a better place. Okay, but what are these poor people going to do if they have to, if they're losing their jobs? If you're a bartender, listen, there are bartenders who do extremely well pre-COVID. What happens now? Where is your skill set portable? It's going to be difficult, for a lot of people. The restaurant industry, listen, New York doesn't come back. Getting back to the original question on this,
Right.
are we going to survive
I think we've
COVID?
hit all my questions. I see.
Yeah.
I have my notes.
Okay. Are we going to survive COVID? The bottom line is New York does not come back without culture, without tourism, and without the food and beverage industry. Okay. Plain and simple. It's the very fabric of New York. It's part of what makes New York so
Hey, if
wonderful.
if it's not for that, then it's just a place to work. And if it's
Yeah.
just a place to work, well, you could work elsewhere.
Yeah, but that's why do you want to live in New York? Because it's so hip and happening because of the vibe is
Mhm.
incredible. Talking about pre-COVID, you need these restaurants to come back, and with the whole thing with government, and this is not a political statement. Ronald Reagan had two lines about government, and one is government is not the solution, government is the problem. And the other one is, I think the 9 most terrifying words in the English language is,
I'm
for
from the government. I'm here to help.
I'm here to help. But you know what? On one hand, he was wrong that it's not the solution, because right now, one of the things that's out there, once again, not a political statement, there's something called the Restaurant Act that has been lingering out there since July. And I think it's part of both packages that are going on with the House and the Senate. It's $120 billion relief act for the restaurant industry. That is so important, because the government, bottom line is, New York's not coming back without food and beverage.
Get in line behind the judicial confirmation process right now, the election, and a possible stimulus package. That's not really the big priority right now, unfortunately.
But you know what? It is, because the bottom line is it's going to be financial Armageddon for too many people. I think, and I'm losing a little bit track on some of the stats, but I think the restaurant industry makes up about 20 to 25% of the workforce, hospitality, and half of those people are unemployed. It's not good in any way, shape, or form. In New York, people listen. The fact that I'm not going to the city office, I'm what some people would call a schmoozer, okay, and I take people out and we do events and everything and do public presentations at certain places. If I'm not there, that means I'm not buying lunch, I'm not buying drinks, I'm not doing events, okay. So I'm not that I'm the man on the street, I'm far from it, but I'm hurting the restaurant industry, okay, as a consequence in New York.
Well, listen, when one person saves, it's that person's savings. If we all try to save, it hurts the economy.
Yeah, no,
we want everybody to save money, but we don't want everybody to do that at the same time.
Yeah, and the other place where you do need the government intervention is that I basically do an awful lot of lease restructuring, and this is my 5th cycle doing it since the Resolution Trust days. This was the .com bomb, 9/11, Great Recession.
Oh, the 89-90 real estate recession.
Yeah, this is totally different because of the great unknown, the life, health, and safety factor, and it's just a great unknown. And I spend, and I say it kidding around a little bit tongue in cheek, and I don't know if it's inappropriate, but I don't think it is. But I spend most.
It's just us. This isn't actually TV. I like to make pretend it's TV, but it's just two guys on a podcast.
Yeah, I spend most of my day talking landlords and tenants off the ledge, and it's become extremely personal. And it's just not the point that I'm trying to make. It's just not landlords and tenants. There needs to be 4 parties that come to the dance. The lenders, obviously, because landlords can't agree to certain concessions because of their covenants in their mortgage without the bank consenting. But the 4th dance partner is that of the government. Okay, there needs to be something where we all somehow work together, because it's. To build it back up, it's that line, that song by David Bowie, "Let's Dance." Okay, it's we need those 4 dance partners here, and it's going to be interesting over the next it's I don't even want to say 6 months. I think that
to you it's interesting because you're going to survive. You're going to come out of this. A lot of landlords are not going to come out of this. A lot of real estate brokers I know and are not going to come out of this. Not as real estate brokers, and it's going to be very tough. I wonder when the big national commercial real estate firms start to pull back on draws and hiring and training, if it hasn't happened already.
But why would you think, this isn't about me, but why would you think that I'm going to come out of this? Remember, I was on the ownership side, and doing, I was, let's just say, more comfortable. Okay. And at the end of the day, the world changed, and I became a newly appointed member of the middle class. Properties.
Sure, we all feel it.
This is 2009, and basically I had to reinvent myself. I had to have confidence in who I was, and I had to build it up again. And using LinkedIn. And remember, 2009, the context was LinkedIn and Twitter existed. Nobody knew they did. Facebook was personal. YouTube was funny videos. That was 2009. Okay. And the reality is that, I didn't make money for a very long time. Not that this is but it's like you sit there and you have to, and I was sitting there with 4 kids, three of them about to go to college. You sit there and you do what you have to do to survive. And a lot of people are going to you're going to crawl back. And that's why I said this is a marathon. Bottom line is life is still good, but you're going to have to use everything in your skill set, to build it back. And it's just a matter of just treading water for now and trying to hit the holes wherever the hell you can.
That's right. I could talk to you. That would be a whole other episode of, the content and how you reinvent yourself and all that, because I love that stuff. But let's leave it at that. We will continue this another day. I want to thank you so much for your time and for your advice. And you're just a wealth of knowledge. I really love speaking with you. And I wish you had more time.
You do need to get out a little bit more, if that's what you think, by the way. But thank you. We all do.
So I had lunch out at Blackstone today. It was great to get out.
Really?
See a few people. Yeah. You know what? There were a few other people there too. So it was okay. I'll speak with you soon, my man. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me on, Mitch. I appreciate it. Take care.